Jackson, do you think Newgarden could start to receive priority from Team Penske in the coming races with setup and strategy?
I think it's a matter of, I think that's a question you got to ask week by week, and it's such a hard thing to answer because it really does depend on the scenario. Where's Newgarden running compared to his teammates? But I think even then, I don't know if Roger is going to be someone who wants to necessarily have that for the sake of conserving the team's image, but I think it could go 100% either way. Either the captain's all 4 team orders to give this kid a shot at the championship, or I think it's about saving face and letting the guys battle. But it's hard for me to give a genuine answer right now.
Yeah, I don't think Team Penske would do that. I think you can look at Gateway last year when both of them were in the championship battle, and there were no team orders, and Newgarden had a much better shot at the championship than McLaughlin last year. So I don't think you'll see anything like that unless one of them's having like a really bad day and there's like pit selectors, like who will they focus on? They'll probably focus on Newgarden when it comes to pit strategy and stuff. But I don't see like, oh, hey, we need you to get out of the way for Josef Newgarden. I don't think you're going to see that at all.
Yeah, I totally agree. It doesn't seem like a Roger Penske type of thing to do with all the team orders and all of that. I'm sure they're definitely going to be pouring in max resources into Josef's car to make sure they're giving him the best chance to go out there and win the championship. But if it's like 2 laps to go and let's say Palou has a really bad race, he's out, and then Scott McLaughlin's leading and Josef Newgarden second, you're not going to hear Roger Penske or Tim Cindric come on the radio and be like, Scotty, we're going to need you to pull back and let Josef win this race or anything like that. But if anything, they're going to make sure that number 2 Chevrolet is going to have everything it's needed to try to take the fight to Palou. But as we've been saying in recent weeks, we're going to have to see like an epic collapse from that number 10 team for them to lose the championship at this point.
Yep.
Well, let's turn the clock back to 2012. We're at Sonoma. There's 3 races left in the season, and Will Power finishes second to Ryan Briscoe in that race, his Team Penske teammate at the time, in a race for Ryan Hunter-Reay's main championship rival, falling out towards the back of the pack. And John Oriovitz, I've got the column pulled up right here on my phone. I'm just going to read out what he concluded with in a word on team orders, if you will. Think those 10 points Power potentially lost at Sonoma means something? And do you think Penske Racing will second-guess itself for not imposing team orders at Sonoma if Power somehow loses the title by less than 10 points? Do you know how many points Will Power lost the 2012 title by to Ryan Hunter-Reay? 3 points. So I'm not saying, it's been 11 years. Things can potentially change, but Roger Penske, Team Penske, they were very adamant at the time. Team orders is not how we race. We're not bringing that Formula One political stuff here into the IndyCar series. It's a very different era right now with Penske actually running the series. I don't know if he would change his mind, if he has any regrets. Power, of course, got his championship a couple of years later, not to mention added a second one last year as well. But again, I would just, as much as I don't like team orders, I certainly understand why they're imposed, but I would hope that, we look at a championship fight and we recognize it's every driver for themselves out there, even if we're teammates and we share resources and we share setups and things like that. I would hope Newgarden's allowed to fight for this championship on his own. And the way he's been running, I don't know if he's even going to need preferential treatment because he's probably going to be the lead driver of Team Penske for the last 4 races anyway.
Ben, that's a stellar point, and I just want to point out, adding on to that, just how much the captain's already been under fire for, maybe throwing a couple too many red flags at the Indy 500 to give Josef Newgarden the win this year at the 500. So maybe that would also be a factor in determining whether or not we pull team orders here. I'm curious what you guys have to say on that.
Well, I'm not going to put the tinfoil hat on and say Roger Penske threw the red flag to try to give his driver the win. I think Roger's been very, very clear ever since he bought the Speedway and bought the series that that's a laughable idea that he would try to give his team preferential treatment here. But it does make you wonder. It certainly fires up the Facebook comments, I suppose, with kind of fans that you know who I'm talking about, right? But I don't know. Like I said, I would very much like to see team orders avoided whenever possible, but it does make you wonder, do they have any regrets? You can look back and pinpoint certain individual places in the season, but then again, if Will Power doesn't lose control of his car at Fontana, he coasts that championship easily. So you can always go back and look at little moments here or there and say that cost me a championship, or if we'd done that slightly differently, we'd been in a different position. I think, like we've been saying, Alex Palou has been so dominant this year that you can't really do that for one race at this point with the gap that he has. It's been over the course of the season, and I think as great as Newgarden's been over his last several races, he's probably still going to come up a little bit short.
If I can respond to the Indy 500 comment, I think that's more this IndyCar series is having an identity crisis on what if they want to go more into entertainment or if they want to go more into actual racing, because they used to be fine with just Indying under yellow, but I don't know if that's the case anymore. But yeah, I just don't, like one of you said, Josef can just lead his way into this championship on his own. It's just Alex Palou is on another level and he cannot be fazed by anything.
Yeah, well, I talked to a friend of the show, actually, Luis Torres, who's been a guest on Life of the Grid, and anybody that Life on the Grid, I should say. If anybody follows him on social media, you know that he always keeps track of the red flags throughout all the different series and everything. And I asked him today straight up, like, has there been an increase in red flags over the last couple of years? Because it certainly feels like there has been, and he immediately responded, yes. Just in giving me the stats and everything. The Indy 500, along with the number of red flags we saw, and thinking back to some of the road and street races last year as well. I know you want to talk about Will Power feeling a little bit robbed and having his car not refire. What was that? One of the Detroit races a couple of years ago, I think. So, it certainly is a little bit more entertaining in terms of the stuff that we get to talk about here on this show. But again, from a sporting integrity standpoint, I think it does raise a couple question marks as well.